We finally got some early Friday box office numbers from the US domestic market for Endgame, and it's reportedly got $1.8 million. So that's for the Endgame re-release or bonus material version or whatever you'd like to call it. $1.8 million for Avengers Endgame for Friday. And so the main takeaway from that is $1.8 million on Friday enough money to show that Avengers Endgame could beat Avatar? I think it is. I think $1.8 million on Friday shows that Avengers Endgame can beat Avatar, but I also think it's very difficult to know what this money will mean into the future. So I really don't want to sit on the fence and say it could beat it or maybe it won't beat it, but I really don't know what $1.8 million means in the future. But right now, $1.8 million is a massive increase over the top of what I thought it would have earned without this special edition existing. So this has really put it back in the game. I thought that it would not beat Avatar without this. Okay, it was looking like there was no chance that it could beat Avatar. $1.8 million is a very big change in the amount of money it was earning, and if it can sustain this kind of money, it will definitely beat Avatar. The only question is, can it sustain the money? If we look at previous films that were re-released, and this, again, isn't really a re-release. It was already showing on 900 screens yesterday in the US market. Now it's showing on 2,000 screens. Or not screens, theaters. It was showing on 900 theaters yesterday, and now it's showing in 2,000 different theaters. So it's not a normal re-release. It's difficult to compare it to other re-releases. But other re-releases, they burn out really quickly. So a lot of people see in the opening weekend, and then it really dies off after that. So I expect this will be the same. But we have got Spider-Man coming out on Tuesday in the US market, which will probably boost it as well. So there's really not too much to look at in the past to base this on to really know what's going to happen. But the $1.8 million, that's really good news for Avengers Endgame. Whether or not it can beat Avatar, again, I think it probably can at this stage. But whether it does or doesn't, that's a really big increase from where it was looking like it was going to actually end up. If you take a look at this chart here, it compares Endgame's box office to Infinity War's box office at the same relative point in time from around about 5 weeks ago. Before that point in time, Endgame clearly earned more money than Infinity War, but 5 weeks ago they started earning around about the same for around about a week, and then about a month ago, or 4 weeks ago, Infinity War started earning more money than Endgame every single day. And Endgame was only getting around about 75% of the money that Infinity War earned. And you can see very clearly here where they break apart and the blue line is clearly underneath the red line, and it just earns a little bit less every day, a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. And then at the very end here, you can actually see on the chart very clearly what Endgame just did on Friday. So you can see how abnormal this Friday was for Endgame, where it was actually looking like it was going to go, and where Infinity War went at the equivalent time for its actual Friday. So you can see this $1.8 million that Endgame just got, it was quite a drastic increase, and in no way looked like it would earn that kind of money, except for the fact that it has this special edition release, or again, re-release, or whatever it is, bonus material release. So the total right now officially for Endgame is $2.75 billion. That's around about $25 million less than what Avatar earned, or only about 1%. So it's got 99% of what Avatar earned. It's really close on a percent basis. But it looked to me, before this special edition was coming out, it couldn't get this extra $25 million. But we just saw in a little chart previously, it's had a really big spike up. So this $1.8 million it just got, that completely changes the story, and it makes this $25 million very possible. Again, maybe it won't get there because it'll just spike up and then completely collapse afterwards. It's just impossible to know at this stage. But it is looking like it's getting closer than it was before, and it was going to get pretty close before. So now it's definitely going to get closer to Avatar than what it looked like it was going to be beforehand. If we take a look at the raw numbers that we just saw in the previous chart, we have Endgame on the left, Infinity War on the right, and day 64 is the Friday that we just had with the $1.8 million for Endgame. So down the bottom here, I've got 4 more days I've filled in. They're green, they're all projections, they're not real numbers. But the last number there for the day 64, the $1.8 million, that's the Friday that we've just had. And I said in my previous video, it's looking like it'll get around about $330,000. So $330,000 is what Endgame looked like it would get for Friday if there wasn't a special edition. So $1.8 million compared to $330,000, that is a massive increase. I thought that Endgame needed to earn around about twice as much money as it looked like it was going to earn to beat Avatar. So that means it needed to get around about $660,000 on Friday just to sort of double the money to look like it could double the money. Now, to make it just a little bit harder to calculate, it will probably die off quicker after re-release. So it needed to do more than double. So it had to get more than $660,000 to look like it could sustain it and earn the extra money to beat Avatar. $1.8 million, that's certainly more than double the $330,000. Okay, it's way over double. So this right now is what leads me to say that it will beat Avatar. But as I sort of said earlier, how quickly will this die? That's the only question we have now. So the $1.8 million, if this was a normal just box office, if this was a film that just earned $1.8 million on Friday, it beats Avatar. It's as simple as that. Endgame will beat Avatar. It'll lose some money day to day, week to week, and it will beat Avatar and become the number one film. The question is, how quick or how badly will this money erode? How quickly will it go away? That's the only real question here. If it doesn't erode any quicker than a normal film, Endgame is going to be the biggest film of all time. Now, if you look down the bottom of Endgame with the green numbers, they're my projected numbers. I think the Saturday and Sunday figures, the next two numbers, they're fairly safe. They're pretty standard as to what a film will normally get an increase on Saturday compared to Friday, and Sunday around about the same as what you got on Friday. Monday will decrease. The real question is the bottom number there, day 68. That's the Tuesday. That's when Spider-Man comes out in the North American market. So what kind of effect will Spider-Man have on this? How much will Spider-Man retain this money? And how much will Spider-Man boost this money? That's really the second part of the key here. So again, the increase it's got on Friday, if it was just a normal film, it looks like it'll earn enough money to beat Avatar, but it's a re-release, the money will die off quicker. But will Spider-Man keep the money around, and will Spider-Man actually boost it even more? So that's the next thing really to look at. What kind of money is it going to earn on Tuesday, and then going forward Wednesday, Thursday, and so on? So will Spider-Man help Endgame in the box office, just like Endgame helped Captain Marvel in the box office? Yesterday, Deadline released this article here. When will Avengers Endgame dethrone King of the World James Cameron's Avatar for the all-time global box office record? The article says, you'd think the re-release would be enough to get Endgame over the bump and pass Avatar. Unfortunately, that's not expected, and if it happens, it would shock many in distribution circles. Even if Endgame in the next week grosses $10 to $15 million worldwide, many say the final $22 to $27 million will be an uphill slog that might require an additional theatrical re-release. Another one. So this isn't really a re-release. They're saying we might need another re-release just to bump it over the top, as ridiculous as that sounds. So it needs another theatrical re-release should Disney decide to go the distance and outstrip the record owned by the mega franchise filmmaker they inherited from Fox. Some in distribution circles even think Endgame ultimately won't outpeg Avatar. So they're saying even if it's re-released again, it might not even beat Avatar. Essentially, the Endgame re-release offered an opportunity to bask in the sunlight of Sony's MCU title Spider-Man Far From Home, which opens Tuesday and is expected to own the Independence Day week with a $125 to $160 million week. From what we hear, Endgame re-release wasn't part of a greater D-Day Disney distribution strategy to topple Avatar's record. I think that's a complete lie. I think the only reason it's re-released was to beat Avatar. This whole idea that it wasn't released to beat Avatar, but they didn't make a new movie, and it was still in release, I'm calling shenanigans. I do not believe that. Deadline's fairly good with a lot of their reports, or at least they've been fairly good recently. I think they've been fed a bit of a lie there from whoever they talk to inside Disney. I do not believe at all that this was not released for any purpose other than to beat Avatar. The article also goes on to say, some sources believe Endgame could earn more cash later this summer if Disney plays it as a double feature with The Lion King. Also, it's not unusual over Labor Day weekends for majors to re-release their big blockbusters for one last hurrah. I think that's getting pretty pathetic if it doesn't in fact beat Avatar and they do what you'd have to call a second re-release and back it up with another Disney film, back it up with Lion King to somehow get more people interested. Now, I'm not really sure what the crossover would be for The Lion King and for Endgame other than they're both Disney movies, but nonetheless, that's what the article's stating here. They reckon there's a chance we could be in for another re-release of Avengers Endgame if it doesn't beat Avatar. So once again, $1.8 million for Friday, an absolute massive increase over the top where it looked like it was headed. That's basically equivalent to what it was on a month ago. So 4 weeks ago for the Friday, it got about $2 million. So it's essentially resetting itself to get an extra 4 weeks worth of money from 4 weeks ago, which is a huge increase in the amount of money it could earn. So at that rate, it'll beat Avatar, no questions about it. The only thing is, will it retain the money at the normal rate? I don't think it will. So how badly will it bleed the money? Will it bleed the money so quickly that it still won't beat Avatar? Or will it still retain enough of an increase to actually beat Avatar and become the #1 film of all time? Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time.